franktalks.com.
Remember to sign up for the Coping with Loss newsletter and get weekly supporting messages to help you manage your bereavement, grief, and mourning. You are not alone. Sign up at franktalks.com now.
Check out the Frank Talks Relationship column currently running in the Suburban Newspaper online magazine. To read more, please visit www.thesuburban.com.
Relationships, sex, passion with Dr. Laurie Betito. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800. Sitting in is Kelly Alexander.
10:05 on a Trouble Tuesday here on Passion. Welcome to Passion, a show all about love, sex, and relationships. And as mentioned, my name is Kelly Alexander, filling in for Dr. Laurie, who is away promoting her book. Now, tonight on the show, as mentioned, it is Trouble Tuesdays. And every Tuesday, usually, Dr. Laurie answers your questions. Now, tonight we have a regular contributor with us, Mr. Frank Kermit of franktalks.com, who can answer your dating and relationship questions. And with regards to, how shall we say, more technical sexual questions, we will leave that for Dr. Laurie to answer next week. Now, we'd love for you to join us by text, of course, at 514-800. And please put your first name in the text if you don't mind. And also by phone, as per usual, at 514-790-0800. Frank, welcome back to Passion.
Thank you very much, Kelly. It's fantastic to be here.
Thank you. So I wanted to mention again that you are a dating and relationship coach, a best-selling author, and the relationship columnist for the online Suburban. So we have a lot to get to, ce soir, if you will. I know we're going to get into, the topic of cheating, which I think it follows you from like high school right through, depending on how things go in your life. Hopefully you do make it through life without a partner that cheats, but I think it happens and it can happen. And sometimes I think you get stuck in a maybe in like a pattern, Frank.
Absolutely. Sometimes as the cheater, the person unknowingly begins a certain behavior that person repeats, even though they intend not to. They really make a conscious effort saying, this is not who I want to be. This is not what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, they've done it again.
Wow.
And then there's the pattern of the people who consistently date cheaters. It's not an accident when it keeps happening to you. Now, if it happens to you once, okay, you know what? I just got unlucky. If it happens twice, whoa, now we're starting to look at someone who's really unlucky. But if it continues to happen, if every person you've ever dated was unfaithful,
wow,
there's something going on in you that is choosing to date those people. We don't necessarily choose who we have an affinity for. We're not necessarily choosing who we're attracted to, but we do choose who we go out with and who we get into serious relationships with.
Are you exuding, bringing in these people to your life kind of thing? Like, are you sending off a vibe?
It's possible we're setting off a vibe. I'm going to look at more. There are red flags.
Okay. That
people tend to either ignore or miss, or they say, well, I know this person cheated in the past with other people, but it's not going to happen to me. Mm-hmm. And come on, folks. Really. If you know the person has a reputation, don't think that you're going to change that person, because that is a sign of your own particular issue. Mm-hmm. Best thing to do is to look for somebody you don't have to change in order to be with you.
Frank, what do you say actually to someone who, thinks they're going to change a cheater? Like if the person finds out, if person A finds out that person B, who they're interested in, has cheated before, do you run for the hills immediately? Like can there be, cheating rehab? Like, can someone actually not be a cheater except for that one time maybe that they've done it? Or is it guaranteed to be a pattern?
It's not guaranteed to be a pattern. We always like to give people the benefit of the doubt. The key question is, can that person explain why they cheated? Mm-hmm. And if there was a reason, have they dealt with that reason?
Okay.
And if they haven't dealt with that reason, if they're constantly blaming the other person that they were with at the time, well, there's, tell me what you're planning to do next time you find that yourself in that position. What other options would you choose?
Okay.
That's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Now we have some questions we want to actually put out to the to our listeners. And again, I think cheating is such a huge topic. I think it's an important topic. And if you have questions for Frank and want to get his take, we'd love for you to again join us on the phone at 514-790-0800, and of course by text 514-800. And a couple of questions we'll put out there. Have you ever caught someone cheating? What were the signs? Has cheating or being cheated on ever actually saved your relationship? I can't imagine that, Frank, which I'll let you get into later, but I can't imagine that saving, but you're probably going to tell me it has happened. We actually have a text right away because it is Trouble Tuesday. We're going to get to them right off the hop. Frank, I love this one. What can a guy do if he is married to a cold fish? I feel that's harsh. I feel that it's harsh, Frank.
Okay, well, let's find out what it is you would want and what it is that she is not comfortable with. Because somewhere in there could be a place to compromise.
Right.
Now, if the issue is not necessarily that she's a cold fish, but she doesn't appreciate the way he's approaching her, there he's in full control of what he can do, and what he needs to do is to find out what is going on. Now, if we're talking about someone who, and when we say a cold fish, I mean, we're talking about someone who is unable to feel arousal, unable to enjoy any sort of pleasure from physical contact.
Right.
Now we're looking at, okay, is there something in the area of therapy that we need to explore? If, however, it's just a matter that he wants it and she's not interested, well, there's got to be some more information here. What has he tried?
Right.
What is she interested in? Maybe she likes a lot of foreplay. Maybe she wants to see an effort, maybe a romantic evening set up so that she doesn't have to do the cleaning up and so on around the house. He'll take care of that for her. And then maybe she needs to ease into it. Maybe she wants a nice warm bath. One good thing you can do, dude, try this. Think about what you used to do when you were courting, when you were dating, something that you did at the very, very beginning when you first started dating. And what did you do at that point to entice her?
What happens, Frank, because I've seen this before. I have a friend of mine, a couple actually, and she did not, they got married and the whole thing. So they had been the courting thing going on, obviously, and got married and the whole thing. And then she did not appreciate the way he was romantic. Like I know one night, it was their anniversary apparently, and she told me that, he'd gone out and got candles and set up the bath and the whole thing. And she was like, pfft. She's like, that's so lame and not imaginative and outside of the box. And he was devastated because he thought he'd done this magical romantic soiree.
Well, what was she expecting?
I don't know.
Okay.
She never was sort of clear on it, but she wanted something else for him. And I'm like, well, you need to figure that out because he put effort.
Well, listen, there's a few things here that we need to look at. Number one, it's not all about you.
Right.
When your partner is making an effort to reach you, then you need to appreciate that, because there's a lot of other people that you're going to date in your future, and you will be dating other people in your future if you have no appreciation.
Right.
That will not put in that kind of effort for you.
Right.
Number two, I would ask the question, is there something else that's going on that she's not happy about?
Right.
Meaning that no matter what he does, it's just never going to be good enough. And you know what? This could be a symptom of a deeper issue. Maybe she's really angry about something that she never got over.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't even know that she's angry about it. So at this point,
it's coming out in other ways.
It's coming out in other ways.
Okay. Joining us on Passion tonight is relationship columnist for The Suburban, as well as a relationship coach, Frank Kermit. If you want to learn more about Frank, very simple, franktalks.com. And again, it is Trouble Tuesdays, so we'd appreciate your texts at 514-800 and, of course, by phone, 514-790-0800. Frank, just back to this cold fish text for a second. It kind of bothers me that he even wrote that he's married to a cold fish. You know what I mean? Like, do you not find that a bit harsh even? Like he's obviously angry writing a text like this in those words.
It's not a very good thing to refer to your spouse
as a cold fish.
As a cold fish. Well, with any derogatory comment.
Right.
Okay. I'm looking at it and saying, yeah, he shouldn't be referring to his spouse in that way, but I'm looking at the anger in that statement. I want to know what's the underlying frustration
where it's coming from. Okay.
And that's what I have to address.
Okay.
Because if he's this frustrated.
Yeah, he's frustrated. Yeah, he's angry.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least he's reaching out and he's trying to solve it, because one of the topics we talked about was infidelity. And I'd rather see somebody who's frustrated coming to me with these type of questions, because at least I know they're still trying to work on that relationship.
Right.
As opposed to saying, oh, well, and then seeking it elsewhere.
Right. Okay. Again, much more coming up on Passion here, 514-790-0800, and of course by text, 514-800. My name is Kelly Alexander. Let's see what's going on around town with regards to your drive from the CJAD Traffic Center. This is Kira Yeager.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Good evening, Kelly Alexander, in for Dr. Laurie on Passion. That's a little Color Me Bad from 1991. Way to go, Andrew. Joined by Frank Kermit, a relationship coach, the relationship columnist for the Suburban Newspaper Online Magazine. You can learn more about Frank at franktalks.com. We are, smack dab in the middle of Trouble Tuesday here on Passion. If you have questions for Frank that he can help you with, he's such a great guy. You do want to get in on this. I know we have some people already on the phone at 514-790-0800 and on the text line as well at 514-800. We'd love if you would put your first name in the text. Frank, you ready to go to the phones?
Absolutely.
All right, we've got Dayon. Hi, Dayon.
Hello, how are you doing tonight?
Good. So what's your question for Frank?
Well, my question is how to introduce gratitude in my relationship with my wife. And it's a high conflict situation. I'm afraid that, if I introduce gratitude, that she might get angrier at me, and in that case, we're not going to be necessarily progressing the relationship. We're separated right now, so I would like to do something to kind of keep moving the needle forward in our hopefully reconciliation process, and I would just like to get some advice on that.
Thank you, Dayon. Frank?
Okay, when you're trying to introduce gratitude, you're trying to show appreciation, trying to be grateful for every little thing that happens that's good and pleasant. If he's worried about upsetting her more, then maybe instead of gratitude, what she needs is space. At that moment, and we don't know why it's going on. All we know is that if she's on the receiving end of something that's pleasant, like gratitude and someone being grateful, and she's getting more upset, then what she's really calling for is space. So basically, back off and give her more space than she needs. And when she's ready, she'll be able to appreciate whatever gratitude that you have.
Dayon, thank you so much for the call again. 514-790-0800 if you'd like to speak to Frank, and by text at 514-800. Frank, I wanted to move on to, I know you took some questions on Facebook.
Yeah.
And so we got a question here, nameless in Montreal, we'll call them. What should you do when someone you like continues to be coy and flirts with you and then plays the hard to get game? I hate that.
Yeah, you got to call them on it. Just remember that somebody who is flirting with you but has no interest in actually dating you, that's a manipulation tactic.
Okay.
They want attention.
Do they know they're doing it, Frank, all the time? Or do some people not know that they're doing it?
Some people are just very naturally flirty.
Right.
This is the way they move through the world. The problem is they don't get that by being a flirt,
Yep.
they're sending an indication of interest to someone.
Yep.
And someone is going to interpret that way and say, well, hey, if the person's flirting with me, how about we go have a coffee afterwards? Oh, no, I can't. I'm too busy.
Right.
All you do is get a reputation of being a tease and a manipulator. People, so if you are interested in someone who flirted with you, but that person doesn't want to date you, back off.
Okay.
Just dump that person. You may even consider not having that person as a friend.
Really?
Especially if you've developed some really strong feelings and you can't take being flirted with without being able, and then feeling rejected afterwards. So my advice is if someone is they may not even realize it, you just call them out on it and say, listen, I really like you. I'd like us to go out for coffee and see where this can go. If the person says, well, no, I'm not really interested, that's fine. Put some distance between you and that person. You don't need a friend who makes you feel rejected all the time.
Frank, we actually got a follow-up text from our cold fish guy. He actually referred to himself as cold fish guy, so we will do that. He says that we were right, that he is angry. And she cares, he says, about his wife, more about her career and their kids than our relationship. And meanwhile, he is working very hard to set up a second business. So they've got a lot going on.
They've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
What I'm also hearing from this is that he doesn't feel appreciated.
Yeah, I would get that as well.
And by the way, feeling appreciated is one of the emotional needs of men.
Right. Yeah, you and I have talked about that before.
Yeah. For a man, he needs to feel appreciated for the efforts that he's making.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes feeling appreciated means that he may interpret sex as a form of appreciation. Now, sex can take on a lot of different forms in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We all have different interpretations of what sex can mean. For some people, it's just something pleasurable and fun. For other people, sex is a sign of love and commitment. So that's what I mean by different interpretations of sex. Generally speaking, I can understand the idea that they have kids, and the kids are probably taking up a lot. I'm a parent myself, dude. I got kids too, and I know what it's like when it just feels like everything is about everybody else, and our own needs are not being met. And this isn't just about men. This is men and women.
Yeah.
Anybody who's a parent has felt like this. Look, if you got kids, try getting a babysitter one night.
Yep.
And just block off a night for the two of you to reconnect. It may lead to sex, it may not lead to sex, but right now I'm more worried about the two of you just having a night where the two of you can rekindle what you had when you first started dating. And, right now, again, we don't know what their financial situation is. A second business being set up, they must have a first business, she's got a career too. They don't have a time just to be a couple.
Frank, I see a follow-up question in here that I want to ask you based off of this, which I think would apply to other people. It sounds like in this relationship, at the moment anyways, that he is more about them as a couple. Not that he doesn't love his kids. Obviously, he loves his kids. But it sounds like he would place the priority on him and her. And it sounds like she places the priority on the kids and then them as a couple. What happens if you actually have that in a couple where one thinks that the kid should go first, and the other one's like, no, we were a couple first. We have to be tight. Otherwise, the family's going to fall apart. How do you deal with that?
My primary response to that is, look, making the kids first all the time, you're going to destroy the couple.
Okay.
Making the couple first all the time, you're going to have some troubled kids there. You need to make kids the priority when the kids need you, but if you lose that essence of what made you a couple
right
to begin with because you just don't have the time to nurture it, that's not going to do your kids any good either.
Okay.
It is in your kids' best interest for the two of you as a couple to rekindle and to maintain that connection. And I know it's not easy. Look, and I'm saying this as a parent, okay? I know it's not easy. But you also have to be mindful that and my guess is that they have young children here. At some point, your kids get older, they get more independent, and you do reconnect.
Right.
Hang in there. It does get better.
Now, what would you say, because, it sounds like he really wants to fix this, as we've mentioned, because we see the anger, we see the frustration. Would you be worried that he or someone like him would be apt to head off and cheat?
You know what? If he's building a second business, I don't even think he has the time.
Okay.
And I would never just point my finger and say, okay, well, that's a prime candidate. Because not everybody cheats just because they're not getting it at home.
Right.
Okay? People cheat for their own reasons. Sometimes it has nothing to do with their partner. You could have what could be, on the surface, really strong relationships. And then there's somebody within that couple that's not getting certain needs met that have nothing to do with the person they're with. They may have a stellar partner, but they're going off, and getting something on the side for their own reasons that has nothing to do with what's going on at home. So no, I wouldn't just look at this guy and say, well, yeah, he's going to do it. No, let's not go there and accuse the guy of something here just because he's reaching out and he's talking about what pain he's in.
Yeah. No, and I'm not trying to paint him as the brush. I'm just saying, would that be a red flag? Like some other red flags, Frank, before we go to break, what would you say?
Okay, well, the red flag here right now is that he's not happy with something that's going on at home.
Right.
Okay? What I'm going to say is, okay, what efforts have you both made to alleviate this. Does his wife even know that he's this frustrated?
Right.
Does his wife even know that this for him is a major issue? Have they tried to get the babysitting done? Have they been able to hire a babysitter? Are they able to send the kids away for a weekend with the grandparents and not work on their businesses or careers for that weekend? Is that even a possibility? It's not easy for the modern family right now to keep it together and always have open lines of communication. Sometimes sheer exhaustion plays a major factor, and people don't realize that until it's too late.
Much more coming up on Passion with relationship coach Frank Talks, from Frank Kermit from franktalks.com. And you can, again, if you want to line up on the phone, 514-790-0800. And we appreciate your text as well, 514-800. My name is Kelly Alexander. You're listening to Passion here on CJAD.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
The following program contains mature subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
This is Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800. Sitting in is Kelly Alexander.
Good evening. We are in full effect on Trouble Tuesday here on Passion, and joined by relationship coach Frank Kermit. You can learn more about him, franktalks.com. And we've got a fair amount of questions that have come in. I know, Frank, you had been collecting some on Facebook, and this is one from Keith. And he says, all the women I'm speaking with seem to be against the idea of open relationships. I just want to make sure I don't waste time with the wrong person while giving a monogamous woman a chance. Any advice on opening others' minds to the idea of mature adult open relationships? Are there really a lot of women that would be into this idea?
Actually, there are, if it's presented to them in the proper way. First of all, most women hear, when they hear open relationships, that he gets to date whoever she wants and she doesn't.
Right, yeah.
So the first thing you have to say to somebody is, well, no, we're both allowed to see other people. And I often find that one of the key reasons that people, at the very least when they start dating, still want to date casually and see other people, everybody has the same fear. They're afraid of ending up with the wrong person. They see people going through nasty divorces. They see people suffering from bad breakups.
Yep.
And they say, I don't want that to be me. I want to go out. I want to date. I want to find someone. But I don't want to be with the wrong person.
Yep.
And one of the ways you combat that is to actually date as many people as possible. And sometimes you will be dating 2 or 3 people around the same time. You'll be casually dating them, getting to know them all. Why? Because if you're only dating one person, and if you happen to be the type that can get attached very quickly to the wrong person, that maybe gets a little bit desperate, a little bit needy, thinking, well, I don't want to lose what I have and go back into the world of dating and try to meet somebody new. If you never get that serious right away and you're dating people, more people in an open atmosphere, it's a lot more difficult to end up needy and attached to the wrong people.
Frank, I have a question, though.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to correlate this to when I went to the running room to get my shoes. I had a lady there, the manager, and she said to me, so I said, I need to try on a bunch of different shoes. And she's like, no, Kelly, you're going to try on 3 pairs. That's it. Because if you try on too many pairs, you're going to have foot confusion. So if you're dating too many people, do you get dating confusion? Like, how are you supposed to build feelings for maybe one person if you're like, oh, I kind of like a little bit of this one and I kind of like a little bit of that person's personality? Like, I feel like you'd be confused.
Well, okay, getting away from the shoe example for a second.
But you see what I mean?
I do see what you mean.
If you're trying on all these different...
But here's the thing, you will end up developing feelings for different people for different reasons. But when you're looking to get into a serious relationship, you're not just looking to find someone that makes you feel a certain way. You're also looking for a lot of other criteria about what kind of future you want to build with someone. And that is going to be a major deciding factor. The fact is that when you do go out with somebody and you do share some kind of a connection, that connection is universal. That connection can last forever. But just because you happen to fall in love with someone, and just because you have a wonderful connection with someone, doesn't necessarily mean that they're an ideal partner for you. Mm-hmm. And this is where you have to be reasonable in getting to know people, because what happens is that people say, look, I know I shouldn't be with so-and-so, but we've been together and I haven't dated anybody else in the process. And now they're really attached to someone that they know they can't really build a future with. So in terms of foot confusion, if you're trying on 3 or 4 different pairs and then you can only choose one pair, well, you want to choose the best pair you can find. But let's also remember that when it comes to a pair of shoes, that pair of shoes that you're buying, you know that in about a year you're going to have to buy another pair of shoes. And if you're very athletic and you're very active, you're probably going to have to buy another pair, in 6 to 8 months? This is not a human being we're talking about here. Not someone we're relating to.
Right. Well, I just feel like if you're dating so many different people, I don't know how you can pare it down and be like, I mean, I think initially there might be someone that's so not for you. You're like, boom, nope, not this one.
Exactly.
But then there might be 2 or 3, back to the foot confusion, where you're kind of close, and you're like, which one? And then you start picking bits and pieces
let's use that exact example that you just gave. Okay. You know that person that you find out right away that is a no.
Okay.
Let's say that it took 4 weeks of dating that person once a week for you to really confirm this person is a no.
Okay.
Now, if you had been monogamous to that person and committed, that means anybody else that you had the chance to date that month, you would have said, no, I'm already seeing someone, only to find out at the end of the month it was a definite no. Now you're alone.
Right.
As opposed to, well, I'm seeing this person once a week. I don't really know if it's a yes or a no. And now at the end of the month, I got one definite no and I still got 2 or 3 maybes. Well, I'm going to continue to date the 2 or 3 maybes until one of them turns out to be yes, an absolute yes. And the others turn out to be, well, this is another no. And this person would have been great, but these things are missing. So it's not my ideal.
Okay.
And now I know that I'm not going to settle for someone just because there's nobody else available. I have that available option now.
Frank Kermit of franktalks.com joining us on Passion tonight. If you'd like to ask him a question, 514-790-0800 and by text 514-800. My name is Kelly Alexander, sitting in for Dr. Laurie tonight on Passion. You got another question here, Frank, from Zoe. She says, my boyfriend wants us to move in together. He says he loves me and that we might get married one day, but he wants to make sure. I would rather wait until we're engaged before moving in together. We are both in our early 30s. Is it a good idea to move in? Ooh, this is a loaded question.
Oh, big loaded
So much
question.
going on there, Frank.
Early 30s? Mm-hmm. Okay, if you're going to move in, I agree with him in the sense that you want to move in together to find out, set a deadline.
Okay.
And don't move in unless that deadline is there. For example, if we move in together, there's got to be an official engagement within 11 to 12 months. But if by the 12th month, there's no engagement, we break up.
Wow.
So it's other words, we're going to make this happen. And if at that point, if after a year living together, we still don't know if there's an official engagement involved, goodbye.
What happens, Frank, if the dude's like, oh yeah, and then sets the deadline and whatever, and then they get engaged, and then is one of those dudes where, we're going to have a 5-year engagement?
No. Look, she's already in her early 30s here, okay? Time is ticking, and if this guy is not the one that she wants to be with, then she has to face the statistics of being then in her mid-30s to late 30s, and it's much more difficult, statistic-wise, to find that life partner at that point. That's why you set the deadlines. We got to be engaged within 12 months. And from that point on, we're engaged for 6 months prior to getting married. Meaning from the time you get engaged, and now you got 6 months to plan that wedding. If someone is not ready to stick a deadline to these commitments, walk. It's that simple.
And how many women or how many guys, let's say, put it fairly here, would actually walk? Because there's so many people that are like, oh, he's great or she's great enough and it's fine and we're okay and we have an apartment.
Generally speaking, there are people that just don't take their love life seriously.
Okay.
I had an old mentor of mine who told me that people plan for a 2-week vacation more than they plan for the rest of their lives.
Wow.
So my advice to anybody who says, well, things are okay and we don't really have to, these are the people that cannot complain that they wake up one day in the future and they realize, oops, I wasted my time with the wrong person. Can't complain. if you're not going to take it seriously enough. You don't have the time that you think you do.
Frank, how seriously should people be taking their relationship life? Because, everyone always talks about how important it is to go to the gym, how important it is to take care of your mental health. What about your relationship health?
All right. How important if you focus on your career and your wealth and you have a really lousy marriage, that lousy marriage and divorce can destroy everything that you've built up career-wise and wealth-wise. How important is your health? I would, look, as someone who struggles with my health, I can tell you that I would say health is just as important, if not more important. And I know that seems awkward coming from someone who struggles like I do. Mm-hmm. But I would put health way up there. I reached a point in my life where I had done the career thing and gotten the accolades and awards and degrees on my wall, and I was miserable because I had no one to share it with.
Right.
But that's for me.
Mm-hmm.
Does it apply to everybody? Not necessarily. Some people don't really plan for their love lives, and it's not a priority for them. There are entire movements right now of people who want to stay single, never get married, never have kids. My advice to them is, if this is what you want, then kudos to you.
Okay. Carol writes in, I am single. I had a dream last night about one of my exes from last year. Should I call him?
If you're
It's amazing.
Should you call him because you had a dream about him? Mm-hmm. No. Mm-hmm. Should you call him because maybe you've realized that you really were a good match now that you've seen what else is out there, and you want to see if he's single, and you want to see if he's willing to try again, and whatever it was that split you up is gone? Mm-hmm. Sure, go for it. You have nothing to lose.
Is that not selfish, though, Frank? I suppose it depends on the situation, but let's say she bounced him from a year ago. She's like, I'm done. You're not my dude. Then has carried on for a year dating other people. And let's say, he was really brokenhearted. If she goes back to him, is that not selfish of her, especially if he's finally getting his 2 feet underneath him again?
With that said, he's also in a position to reject her.
Right.
If he doesn't want to go through that, or if he doesn't want to risk that. Look, sometimes people need to go through a bad experience to appreciate the great people in our lives that they took for granted.
Right. Okay. Much more coming up on Passion with Frank Kermit, again, relationship coach and columnist for the suburban newspaper online magazine, franktalks.com. My name is Kelly Alexander, sitting in for Dr. Laurie. Right now, the time is 10:45. We're going to see what's happening on the roads in and around Montreal from the CJAD Traffic Center. This is Kira Yeager.
You're listening to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, the podcast. Hear the show live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD 800.
Good evening. Kelly Alexander sitting in for Dr. Laurie on Passion tonight. Trouble Tuesday here on Passion on CJD. And we're joined by relationship coach Frank Kermit, his website, franktalks.com. Frank, we're going to get into the topic tonight, which we sort of alluded to in the beginning. We did talk a bit about it, which is signs of cheating and cheating. But I had one more question I actually wanted to ask you because this is from one of your listeners here. Leslie writes, is there anything I can do to convince my boyfriend to just leave his wife and kids? What would make a man leave his wife? Do you think I should tell his wife about us? Would that help? There's so much wrong with this. It's appalling how wrong this is.
Yeah. Generally speaking, there is nothing you can do that's going to make a man cheating on his wife leave his wife. If a man really wants to be away from his wife, he doesn't need a mistress on the side to give him that motivation. He'll leave on his own. Mm-hmm. Okay, and with that said, if he hasn't left his wife by now, you're not a factor. And you never will be. You weren't a factor before, and you're not a factor now. When a man, and not just any man, anybody who wants to leave their spouse is not going to wait until they line up, the affair to become the next relationship. Usually they seek an affair not because they want a new partner, but because they just want something right now. Mm-hmm. And if he's making promises that he's going to leave his wife, I wouldn't believe it. And why shouldn't I believe it? He's having an affair on his wife. Of course I'm not going to believe it, and neither should you.
And Leslie needs to take her attention elsewhere. You know what I mean? Like, she's sounding super needy.
Well, more than that, Leslie needs to ask the question, why is she focusing on trying to be with a man who's cheating on his wife? Uh-huh. As opposed to, maybe she needs to find a man that is actually willing to make her a wife
Right.
without having to dump someone else.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Leslie, you need to figure that out, sweetie. Okay, so we're going to do our cheating topic, and this is fascinating to me. I want to start off with, I think, the simple question, Frank. And by the way, if you want to speak to Frank, 514-790-0800, and by text 514-800. Frank, why do people cheat? Why?
People cheat for their own reasons. Look, some people are just not cut out for monogamy. Okay, but they
Is that really true?
Yeah, some
Okay.
people are just not cut out for monogamy. They don't appreciate it or value it for what it is. And with that said, sometimes they feel pressured into signing up for a monogamous relationship when deep down inside they just don't feel balanced in a monogamous relationship. Now, for other people, their emotional needs are not being met in the current relationship that they're in, so they seek an affair in order to get those emotional needs met without having to give up their primary relationship. Other people, look, their sexual needs are not being met in their primary relationship, so they'll go elsewhere just to get their sexual needs met, but again, they don't necessarily want to give up their primary relationship. And one of the last reasons is escapism. Sometimes it has nothing to do with their partner or what they're getting at home. Like I said earlier, you can have a spectacular partner, and that's still not enough. And I give this example. I've often found that when a parent dies, sometimes people respond to grieving and mourning in different ways. One of those is they go on a spree of sexual conquests as a form of escapism, trying to escape the pain. Has nothing to do with what's going on with their partners. It's something that they need to do for themselves because it's their way of trying to cope with a traumatic loss.
By wrecking their own life, in a way.
Well, they're not looking to wreck their own life. They're looking to escape the pain.
Okay.
And now the effect is that they're causing more havoc to their life, but they're not thinking rationally, if I do this is bad for my marriage. They're thinking, I'm in so much pain, and there's something over there that's going to make me forget the pain for just a little bit.
Now, we talked about earlier, if the question was, has cheating or being cheated on ever actually saved your relationship? Can that even be, Frank?
Sometimes it can.
Really?
Where people will say, there was an affair and it really shook up our marriage, but it was the best thing that'll ever happen. Sometimes the affair is a symptom of what's really going on in that marriage, something that's lacking, whether it's a lack of communication, a lack of connection. And the affair itself is just it's a sign that says, hey, there's something going on here. It's not the affair itself that is going to destroy the marriage, but whatever was there previously that pushed the affair to occur. And sometimes people say, okay, look, I cheated, you cheated, we're going to work this out. And they go back and say, no, we're going to fix what we have here. Because if one or both of us went elsewhere, that's bad. That's not what we signed up for. It's a reminder to say, come on. We crossed that line, and they put in their efforts again, and they recommit again to fixing that marriage.
Frank, what do you say to someone, though? Because I know you just gave the example that it can work out. You can work things out in the grand scheme of things after someone's cheated. But like, for the person who has been cheated on, how do you trust your partner again?
You have to look at why the affair occurred, and if that particular event or occurrence is still going on. So let's use a stereotypical example, okay? The affair occurred because the person was going through a midlife crisis. Okay, has that midlife crisis been dealt with? Is the person now in therapy, perhaps? Is the person doing something more constructive? Is the person feeling rejuvenated? Has the person gotten beyond the point where they need that kind of escapism? If yes, and trust hasn't been broken in any other area of that relationship, you can move beyond it. Just because people have affairs, and this is something even Dr. Laurie says often on the show, people think that, well, if people have an affair, it's the end of the relationship. The majority of divorces don't happen because of the affair. The affairs are usually that symptom, that warning sign that says, hey, there's something going on here that's not good. But most people get into that situation and they say, I'm not happy that the affair happened and my trust has been horribly broken, but am I ready to walk away from my family, my kids, my lifestyle, Or am I going to look at this and say, maybe there's something here that we can try to work out?
If both parties in the marriage have cheated, is that not a sign to bounce?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Because there may be, look, they might have more in common than they thought before. Maybe their marriage needs to be restructured. Maybe instead of a monogamous marriage, they need to set something up that's non-monogamous where both their needs are met. We have to find out again what made having the affair a good option at the time. Because all of the repercussions of it can destroy your trust, can destroy your faith in one another. The question is, what was going on at the time that made it seem like a great idea? And if you could figure out, okay, it seemed like a good idea at the time because these other things were occurring. Well, maybe you have to look at those other things.
Frank, in your experience, what happens if you have a situation where cheating has gone on, and the person, the cheater, says, "Well, my mate was 130 pounds when we got married, and she's let herself go, and like I'm just not feeling it anymore, so I had to go elsewhere." Like, what do you say to a cheater like that?
What would I say to somebody? I say, okay, well, if the situation were reversed, how would you feel? And some of them say, well, I would feel terrible, and you can work with that. And some of them would say, well, no, then I would expect my partner to go elsewhere. So we're also looking at some expectations here. If you hook up and end up with someone who is shallow, then you have to understand that shallowness, the reason they chose you initially is because they were shallow. Well, the reason that they will leave you is also because they're shallow. So you also have to be very careful who you choose. Are you choosing somebody that has realistic expectations? Are you choosing somebody that says, I'm signing up for the long term, not because I expect you to stay the same and to stay young and to stay vibrant and strong and viral. I'm signing up for the long term because I want to build a future with you, whatever that future is. So you go into it with certain expectations. When you said, okay, a person was 130 pounds and then they're not in the future. If the reason you're marrying somebody is because of what they weigh, you're not getting into marriage for the right reasons. If you're going to get into a marriage, you're getting into a marriage because you want to build a future with that person. You want to, whether it's to have kids or build a certain lifestyle or live in a certain area of the world and have that as your goal. You're looking to build a future with somebody. You're looking for a life partner. And if all you're looking for is a plaything and a trophy, don't get married. There's enough people out there who are happy being playthings and trophies for a temporary amount of time for others.
Frank, we're almost out of time, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, but if someone right now that is listening is on the cusp of cheating, what do you tell them right now? My
advice is don't do it, because the consequences could be a lot worse than you think. Talk to your partner and let your partner know that, look, something's got to change between us. And if you don't know what it is, be honest. I don't know what it is, but something's got to change between us because I'm not feeling right in this relationship. And I would suggest get some coaching, go get some counseling, find out what's going on. Frank, thank you. Thank you, Kelly. That is relationship coach Frank Kermit. Learn more about him, franktalks.com. My name is Kelly Alexander. In for Dr. Laurie tonight. I'll be back tomorrow with Pierre and Catherine from BDSMcircle.com. Have a great night. Up next, it's Joey Elias with The Comedy Show. But first, a look at the news from the CJAD Newsroom with Kelly LaPerry.
Listen to Passion with Dr. Laurie Betito, live weeknights 10 to 11 on CJAD and CJAD.com.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
What do you do when you feel like a fool? When your heart has been broken again? Pick up the phone or get onto Skype and talk on a private session. Yeah, get a little help from Frank Talks. Whoa, whoa, get by with a little help from Frank Talks. You gotta try a little help from Frank Talks. What do you do when your love goes away? Try coaching one-on-one. How do I sign up to turn things around? Just sign